You are watching Xirtus.
When you get into the Buddy Holly thing, because what went on at that time was there were a bunch of bands that had been before radio had become the mainstay. People had records, and you bought a record, and it cost money, but you could pay for the whole band, and so you'd have choirs and orchestras and things like that, bigger bands that could be recorded, or you'd pay for them to be in an engagement, or they'd be at a bar all day and they get some of the money as the bar gets more people coming in, however they would do it. Instead, all of a sudden, you can just copy music and play it on the radio. And some bands said, no, we don't want our music played on the radio, And then the radio said, fine, we'll get people who do want their music played on the radio. And that's kind of like Napster. That's kind of like what happened in our lifetime. People went from getting paid great amounts of money and then to getting not get the same amount of money. But it all kind of happened around the crickets. And there were people that were trying to figure out how could they control this new music that these kids were kind of interested in, that they were moving away from, because at first they were getting the lower demographics, like we're getting black people to make music and saying, hey, yeah, you want your music played on the radio? We won't pay you very well, but you can get your music on the radio. And they tricked a lot of people into getting exploited. And then Buddy Holly was trying to come up with another alternative and work with other radio stations. And so that's the one of the stories, is that they were trying to remove anybody in their way.
Oh, are you suggesting that there's a conspiracy theory that plane was taken out because he was loose cannon in that? I never heard that before.
What's that beginning of the movie Josie and the Pussycats, right? So if you watch the Josie Pussycats movie, what's the name of the band? Du jour, because it means of the day, right? And so du jour, we're du jour, and du jour means for life. Du jour means forever. Du jour, and Target sponsorship, right? And eventually they find out that the 8-track recorder, or the 24-track recorder they're using, is putting in subliminal messaging that makes you want to shop. And so the guy just jumps out of the plane and they crash the plane and kill du jour, right?
So is that what happened? Is that what Buddy Holly tried to
I feel like that's what the Josie and the Pussycats movie is insinuating. Maybe there's
if it's
another
related
one.
to how they stopped Elvis too. They kind of shut him down.
Yeah, though that's an interesting one. So I recently did see that movie. You saw that movie, Elvis?
Yeah.
Movie 2022.
Really
What's it called?
good.
Oh, yeah, guys, let's talk about Celebrity Death Pool 2023. Every time there's a Deadpool movie, a whole shit ton of actors die. But they're filming Deadpool 3 this year.
Oh God, I'm scared.
And there has been, so we were talking about the Elvis movie popping big, and
Priscilla Presley.
Lisa Marie died.
Oh, Lisa Marie, not her mom.
Lisa Marie died it was 2,370 weeks since Elvis died. It was in the middle of it. And then the exact one, I had a tweet about this, but that there was a professional wrestler named Jay Briscoe who died tragically in a head-on car collision.
Look up the oh, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
Well, just the last thing is that this guy, Jay Briscoe, who died 2,370 weeks after Elvis died, was actually born exactly 666 months after Kubrick, which is just so weird.
Every time. I had a weird one. I don't know if anyone's like 90210 with the Luke Perry and everything, but
and
he
his
died
son's a
on
professional wrestler too, by the way. Luke Perry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jungle Boy.
That's interesting. Yeah, so there we go. Any things you've got, I'm interested in. Because I saw it, so there's a show called Everwood, and Everwood's freaking weird because basically it's like this demented version. It's the Twin Peaks equivalent of Archie, the Archie comic book. And so all the characters' names are basically the Archie characters and everything like that.
But they made too.
Am I saying it wrong? Is that what it is? Is it Riverdale, not Everwood?
Yeah, Riverdale. I was going to say.
Riverdale.
Yeah.
I think you could just mix them up, yeah.
Mix them up. Okay, Riverdale. So here's what the heck? I'm sorry. And also, what the heck? This show is weird. But the idea of a show of that was about Archie Bunker. I'm not Archie Bunker. All right, I'm going to stop right now because I'm getting synchronicity. And that's not what we're trying to get to. But Luke Perry, he died on the Super Bowl, the Superb Owl, the year after the Philip Seymour Hoffman died on the Superb Owl. And they've been doing this. It seems like this is like a sacrificial time of year. What do you think about this? That is there a thing that happens on the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah. And I would suggest that nobody post during the Super Bowl this year. If you're a conspiracy conspiracy theorist, do not post anything that happens on the Super Bowl this year.
57
because
this year?
we all know. We all know.
I don't know.
I don't know about this though. I want to challenge this idea that sync kills people. I think that sync is the wiring under the board, and we can see, how things are connected. But I don't. If it's a causal, I don't see it as causal. Thank you. Sync doesn't kill people. Yeah, people do.
You don't think synchronicity kills people?
I don't think synchronicity kills people. No.
Well,
okay.
Well.
Because it's a matter of cause and effect. Where is your vantage point that you're going to look at that from? So, like, if you're saying that you're looking at something that's below the surface, it's like, I don't know.
I had a pretty intense thing. I don't think I've ever shared in public, but when my dad died, he died on September 11th, 2016, and he had cancer for like 9 months. And so I knew he was sick. I knew he was going to die. But I was doing this CryptoK research, and I basically, long story short, I pinpointed September 11th, 2016 as being, and the whole week before that, actually, as being really something like, I sent it in an email. I said, is that going to be the day my dad dies? Mm-hmm. And this was like in June. And lo and behold, it was.
So you saw it. You didn't cause the thing to happen because it's it's an Acausal principle. Like I don't know, man. Like I used to think just the opposite, and then this makes more sense to me. Although, like with most things, I would say that there's like a combination, But at the same time, with this, I'm like, we're talking about like something that's distinct but not separate, sure. But which comes first? Like that's the real question. Like what stands before what?
Sometimes I have a paranoid state of mind where I connect the fact that I started doing this CryptoK research and I actually published it on my blog, and then 5 months later, all of a sudden, my dad gets diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. And so in my head, I'm like, well, if I hadn't published anything, would that have happened?
Is this your fault?
Am I being targeted by people in the future? I mean, that's the sort of mindset.
I think it's different to be able to see things than to be able to move things with your mind. I mean, and maybe there's certain circumstances where you can do both, but they're different kinds of things. If you're acknowledging that someone is having a part of a trajectory, you're seeing this path, you're seeing things moving by, you can see kind of where they're going. It's like being able to differentiate an excess wind chill factor or something. He's moving and you can't stop him, but you know where he's moving to. That's different.
James Hillman wrote a book called The Soul's Code, and it's an understanding that the entire life of someone is an actual image. Like the soul is aware of what is going to happen at the end of its life, in the beginning of its life. So he talks about individuals who are like initially shy when they're very young, and hide behind their mom's red apron, end up to be matadors later in life and things of that nature. Like there's a code that the soul of an individual will display in the individual's life over the individual's life, because it is already aware, because we think as far as like time is concerned, we're linear. However, the life of an individual is extremely short compared to a bigger timeline. So the idea is that the life is almost instantaneous, if that makes sense. Like,
dude, as soon as you said James Hillman, I thought you're going to drop about the dream in the underworld and show how that relates. Because have you read that book, The Dream in the Underworld by James Hillman?
No, I've read a lot about Hillman, but not that particular book. I've read a lot about him, and I've read Soul's Code and a few other things, but I remember there's a book like this thick just on him. Yeah. And the reason why he's important to sync work is because he was doing the same thing. There's a story about him coming out of Elvis in particular and him going, "Oh my God, it's Dionysus. Why can't anybody see that it's Dionysus?"
Right.
So,
Well, he was a successor of Jung, right? He actually studied with Jung.
Campbell more in particular. In fact, I think Hillman took over the Joseph Campbell Institute after Campbell's death. I could be wrong, but it's a lot of that Jungian idea of archetypes that carry through from Campbell and Jung. So, but the idea that our lives, like, I mean, how many artists in the chat or in we're talking to now have done things and then afterwards realized that what they did and they thought was random actually had meaning or some archetypal.
Right. There's also places where there's just too much context that you could never explain fast enough.